Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat. My name is always Asmal. This is a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you are joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Abdul Muqtasid Antulay, a chartered accountant who lectures at the University of the Western Cape after lecturing at Stellenbosch University. He also completed his academic articles at UWC. Abdul, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, good afternoon, Uwais, and good afternoon to the viewers and those that are going to watch the recording. Good afternoon, if it is afternoon when you are watching the recording. But it's good to be here. Thanks, Uwais.
Covered all your bases. I love it. But let's jump in. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Abdul Muqtasid Antulay?
So the journey started, take back about 8 to 9 years ago. We actually started studying at Stellenbosch University. I don't think anybody actually knows that, but I actually started studying at Stellenbosch University, and that was a short stint of like 6 months, where during that time I actually kind of figured out that studying BCom mathematical science or actuarial science wasn't for me. And then at that time, the secretary actually told me when I went to go deregister and made the switch over to UWC, told me the sentence of, you do know if you're going to leave, you won't be able to come back and study here. And that statement she made was very profound, because coming 8 years back, coming to lecture at the university, that was told to me, it just showed myself, and that is why this interview is very important, is that to show everyone that one person's voice is not going to basically set out your future. Don't let that keep you behind. And then, so I finished off at Stellenbosch, started at UWC, and anybody's CA journey is not the one that's going to run smooth. So during my second year went, that was fees must fall. And then, I hit the stump block where I actually failed one module. Luckily, that never kept me behind. And then I still was on course to finish my second year into third year, and then into GDA, which was the tough one, definitely. And then I actually found my passion for lecturing and tutoring in my third year of university, because it just gave you a better edge when relaying something over to the next person, and it gave you more understanding. And then finishing my PGDA at UWC, I finished in the top 5 for that year. And then I moved on to do my academic articles at UWC. And that for me was the cream, really, because that gave me the real edge to say lecturing is going to be one of my options. The team I worked with, the colleagues I worked with, gave me the support during that year, which was really great. And then the infamous 2020 came. I started in my academic articles at PwC. I mean, in my second year of articles at PwC. And in the first 2 months, I was in the financial services side. And then I moved over into the CT1, which is more your manufacturing and your other entities. And then I was there for 1 month, and then COVID happened. So then the whole thing of coaching and things was very difficult at that point, because I came from academia into the heart of, being a second year articles clerk and expecting to be on that level. So it was a real challenge. But the support I got from PwC again was very great. the managers, the third years, the first year, second years, was all very supportive. And then that led me into my second year of articles. Yeah, and I know there's a question that somebody posted. So I think I'll deal with that a bit later when you ask the transition in my second year. And then in that second year of articles, in that after COVID, I then also was preparing for board 2. So everything just, one after another coming up, and just juggling your time was, that real thing you had to overcome. And then into my third year of articles, it was a great journey, and then moved on into lecturing into Stellenbosch University out of, getting signed off, and then moving now into University of the Western Cape.
Okay. And outside of work?
So outside of work, I love to be with the family, especially my wife and my daughter. When my daughter was born in my second year of articles, and during that tough time of COVID, and doing the same articles, COVID, having time for the daughter, wife, and also the board exam. So it was all of that in one. And then also I am part of an organization for the last 8 years, which we quite involved in the community with community outreach projects and so on and so forth. So that's basically the out of work.
2020 was just the year for you, eh?
100%. 2020 was the year.
You're one of the few people I know who've lectured at more than one university. Most people, they go to one, they stick it out, or they stay there, or it's the one that they studied at. Why did you decide to, number one, go to Stellenbosch and then make the change after that?
So for me, it was about growth first. I wanted to grow in the sense of go to a different university, and learn as much that I could from all the colleagues. And then I chose Stellenbosch. It came knocking on the door, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to give up the opportunity of going into lecturing. And then I went into Stellenbosch University, and what a time I had. The team I worked with, my colleagues in the information systems department. It was really a great time, really, really great time. I learned a lot. It was, I would say, inevitable for me to come back to University of Western Cape, because I am, my heart is basically at UWC. Because of my undergrad, my postgrad, I did my academic articles, and just the closeness I have to UWC, and to see the accounting department at UWC to grow. That is my real
Okay. And what would be maybe some of the differences between, say, lecturing at UWC versus Stellenbosch, and maybe some of the similarities?
So definitely the similarity and this, basically what is the same as both sides is quality. I think both universities has quality lecturers, quality content, so nobody can really fault in either of the universities for that. The quality is just on that level, and I would say the differences is more of a resources, is that we had, I think, in the excess of 70 to 80 colleagues that was actually lecturing on the School of Accountancy at Stellenbosch, whereas at UWC we about around, I would say, 20 to 25 academic staff. So that dynamic is quite big, but also we have to take into account the cohort of students that is at School of Accountancy at Stellenbosch and at the Department of Accounting at UWC. So it was very different to lecture 3 of the same periods to 600 to 700 students at Stellenbosch University, whereas you come to UWC and you're lecturing one of the groups, which is about 200 students. So there is that differences, but definitely the similarities is that quality is a no-brainer in both universities, and that is how it should be.
And I mean, you mentioned you touched on information systems a little bit earlier. What subjects are you currently lecturing, and why did you decide? Because I'm assuming you might have had a choice. Or yeah, talk us through that decision-making process. Like, I'm going to lecture in this subject.
Okay, so at Stellenbosch University, when you come in, it basically you have they give you an option, but they rather utilize you where they need you, especially a new lecturer coming in. And I was put onto the information systems team. I was, to be honest, I was very anxious because it is something that I wasn't very familiar with. But like I said, the colleagues was a team. They guided me through everything, and it is really something that I would have not. If I look at back today, I would have not traded that in for anything because I got so much experience with the new things that's currently going to happen in CA 2025. You know, it's moving away just from Excel. There is programming. There is exciting things happening. So I had that exposure, which I'm very very grateful for. And then coming to UWC, it's moving back to where I started and my passion being management, accounting, and finance, and making that transition back to UWC. Being in the section, I would say that I really enjoy and I really have a passion for. But also with information systems, it kind of grew onto me being at Stellenbosch as well.
For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end, so please add your questions to the comment section now so that we don't miss them. I mean, you touched on it briefly, but how was your experience of being an academic trainee at an institution like UWC?
Especially being at a previously disadvantaged university. I think the department as a whole is really coming together and trying to bring the department up to the levels that it should have been at, coming through the ranks and so on. And my experience was really a great one. I've been given so much rope when coming as academic trainee. I lectured second year, third years. I did some PGDA. I tutored, I consulted, I set papers. So the exposure I've gotten during that time really gave me the upper hand to make my decision after my articles career, which is the way I want to go. It was basically lecturing, and then obviously going into practice or going into auditing firm. I would say just to test that out. I want to go try that out. Okay, let's see. Maybe that is for me. And then at the end of that third year at UWC, at PwC, it was really a no-brainer for me to go back into lecturing because of the exposure and experience I have been given. And also another thing to note, during my time at PwC, there wasn't a time that I was not in contact with students. I was doing lecturing and tutoring and mentoring as well, just to keep that passion going and not losing out on that.
I have a few questions, but I know this. I see some questions coming through, so let's jump through just two questions from the audience. We had a question before the start of the live from John Pierre Jackson, who says he's definitely interested to know how you navigated having a child during articles. Just provide some insight into how you were able to balance your personal and your professional obligations and APC and COVID and everything else.
Yeah, to be honest, it was a really difficult time. At first, I had to find my feet because it was really tough. It was not easy at all. But at the end of the day, we can plan. You plan, and then God just has a greater plan for you. So for me, it was about having a structure, having a plan. As long as you have a plan, you know where you're going to. And then from there, as it unfolds and changes happen, you just accept them and move on. Like during that time, That was really a tough time, especially having a newborn, COVID. Every 2 hours you're awake, you only sleep for an hour every 2 hours. And that is how it was going. But really, I had very supportive managers during my time, where I would maybe wake up a bit later, but I would be pushing the time afterwards in the evening, when it was really at its peak of actually being productive. Um, but it was more about just accepting that you're in the situation and how am I going to deal with it. Having that plan. If you don't have a plan, you're going to plan to fail. So my advice is, when these things happen, draw up a plan, have a plan of how you're going to go about it. Because if you're just going to say, oh, I'm going to take it as the day comes, then we're going to be facing problems, definitely.
So it's so true. And from what I gather, the plan is not the plan there so that it must stick to every single point in that plan, but at least it's a guide that guides you through,
100%.
something to pull you back to if you need to.
Definitely.
We've got a question from Tapelo who says, what would you say is the best thing about information systems? I'm not sure if that means lecturing information systems or just the subject as a whole. So I'll leave the question up to you.
Okay, so I would say information systems, um, most of the time we take it for granted because we normally do it in the first couple of years of our studies, and then we forget about it. And then when articles come, and then it's just everything that you work on is information systems. You're doing your working papers in Excel. You're getting TVs in PDF. You're getting TVs that you need to pull in. Everything is about information systems. So for me, lecturing into information systems really gave me the understanding that everything in life, and I mean everything in your articles career really needs information systems, whether it be being efficient in Excel. Um, because I know, being a student, I learned Excel and Pastel and things in second year at university, and just forgetting it after that. Um, but realizing it in my articles career, how important it is, I would say, and I would suggest that it should be actually a refresher for each and every year, and should be implementing it in every single subject, because otherwise we're going to put our students at the back foot already from the start. So the best thing for me is learn how to improve yourself with the utilization of information systems, especially Excel. I think there is a lot of things that we can learn about Excel. There is so much things that we don't know about that we can learn.
I remember in my articles they sent us on like 2 Excel courses at different levels, and that makes a massive difference. So I agree. I don't see any other questions coming through. This is one question I'd like to ask all my guests. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
So, for me, when making a plan or having goals, I would say don't write them in permanent ink, because during that time, anything can happen and you're going to have to adjust. So, have that plan, but don't let it be cast in stone. Do allow for changes to happen, because that changes will only make you a better person, and it'll make you realize in life to learn lessons, and make you a better person, and make you better in decision making as well. And also, don't don't care about what others say. You're running your own race. Don't let another person tell you, oh, you've been studying already for 7 years, what is it going to bring you? Sometimes that is just to put you off. You need to tell yourself, and you need to tell yourself, there's certain things you need to accept in life and take advice, but it's not necessarily to take that advice to the next level and actually implement it. No, the thing is that we need to take the positives out of there and eliminate the negatives, and see how we can work with that and improve our life. And also, I think we need to stop obsessing about timelines, really. um, I think the thing about being a CA after 7 years, I think we need to step back and say, we need to make sure that we come out the CA that we want to be, and not a CA just by the books. You want to be that difference maker, and and there's not only one way to do it. There's multiple ways. So don't stick to the timeline. don't be pressurized rather by the timeline about, oh, I only have 7 years to become a CA. I think we need to step back and say we need to accept if there is certain hurdles in our plan and just make that adjustment going forward.
Great advice. And you might have already covered it, but I'm going to ask you again. Any last few words from you or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
I would say, especially during your studies, during your work as well, don't only focus on yourself. Don't only focus on yourself, meaning there is other things happening out there. Like there is students struggling, there is people struggling. Don't always think that you only in your bubble. Don't always think that you're the only one struggling. I think what we need to do is we need to open up and see the world so that we can understand our situation is just but a drop in the ocean compared to other people's worries, so that it brings us ease in our life. And moving forward, the plan then just unfolds.
Wise advice. Can't end it off any better. The show has been live on YouTube and will be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Abdul, thank you so much for your time.
Wes, thanks so much for the opportunity. Really enjoyed the interaction that we had, and hope, we don't know, in the future we might have a follow-up.
Always open for that. Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.